When a congresswoman accuses a cabinet secretary of running a department of cruelty and chaos, you know this isn't politics as usual. This wasn't some sleepy oversight hearing. It was a reckoning, an unflinching confrontation that peeled back the layers of what many see as deliberate policies of fear, from student visas ripped away overnight, to TSA workers stripped of their rights, to U.S. citizens facing deportation scares. Representative L. Monica Maciever didn't waste a single second on pleasantries. She came locked and loaded with yes or no questions that cut straight through the fog of bureaucratic excuses. And what happened inside that chamber left no doubt. Something is deeply broken inside the Department of Homeland Security. Maciever began with the story that resonates across campuses nationwide.
Recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member. A lot has been said, and I expect a lot more will be said about the department's interaction with members of this body when it comes to oversight. But this is not about me. Madam Secretary, it's not every day we have a cabinet member before this committee. As you know, the members of this committee have constitutional oversight responsibility for your department, and there are many things regarding this administration's Homeland Security policies that require our immediate attention. That is the work I am here to do today and every day. Secretary, this committee and the American people deserve answers for the actions of the Department of Homeland Security under this administration and the policies that have been put into place. The department has overseen a regime of cruelty, chaos, and deep disregard for human dignity, all under the pretense of security. The department is being mismanaged, and its policies undermine our nation's values. This does not make us safer, the exact opposite, exactly. Secretary, we need answers about your department's union busting at TSA, deporting U.S. citizens, terminating the legal status of international students for no apparent reason, and disregarding the rule of law. None of these issues at your department exist in a vacuum. In fact, they are all fundamentally connected to the administration's overarching cruelty. We want to hear from you because we are hoping you can make it make sense for us. Because with all due respect, we are all trying to understand why in the world this is taking place. In my district and around this nation, countless international students had their visas revoked without due process, without warning, and without any regard for how this would devastate their lives. These are students who came here to learn, to build their futures, and join our workforce, only to have the rug pulled out from under them by this department's actions. How can we expect international students to trust our institutions and contribute to our economy when we treat them like they've done something wrong just because they are here? Are we no longer the home of the American dream? I also want you to understand DHS's impact on our entire workforce. I proudly represent over 1,000 dedicated TSA workers who had the right to unionize. But that right has been stripped away by your department. This is an attack on the people who safeguard our skies and whose dedication we rely on now more than ever. And the destruction doesn't stop there. I represent communities that live in constant fear each and every day. Families too terrified to step outside and send their kids to school, go grocery shopping, or take a trip to the doctor because of the harassment of ICE and Homeland Security. This isn't public safety, it's state-sponsored fear. I understand that this administration believes that it is its business to scare people into submission and act alone with no regard for the law to decide who is worthy to live in this country or not. However, it is this committee's business to make sure your department is held accountable and to get the American people the answers they've been looking for. So, with that, Madam Secretary, I have a few yes or no questions. Do you agree that revoking student visas without notice can cause fear and confusion among international students? Yes or no?
Congressman, I do not.
Congresswoman, but yes or no?
Congresswoman, I do not decide legal status or visa programs for
I will
students.
take that as a yes. Do you support restoring full collective bargaining rights for TSA employees? Yes or no?
Ma'am, currently today, TSA does not have the
Yes or
ability
no?
to unionize.
Okay, take that as a no. Do you believe that TSA workers should make a livable wage? Yes or no?
Yes, TSA workers are critically important to
Thank
our
you for
security
that. Are you
systems for our
aware, are you
airlines.
aware that recent student visa revocations occur without due process or proper notification?
Ma'am, I don't make a determination of status.
Yes or
The
no?
Department of State does
I'm guessing
that.
you don't know. Okay. Do you believe that TSA workers have the right to better workplace conditions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
TSA
great. Thank you for
workers are
that.
incredibly
Do you
important
believe
to
that
our-
students should have an opportunity to appeal before their visas are revoked? Yes or no?
All processes are followed and that are set out as tools.
I'm guessing
and
it's a no. Okay,
processes
one
in
more
this
last question in
Congress.
9 seconds. Do you believe that that revoking collective bargaining rights for TSA workers affects their morale and job performance? Yes or no?
I believe TSA is critically important
Okay,
in
I'll
the
take
future
that
and that
as
they have been.
maybe you don't know, maybe it's yes or no.
Gentlelady's time has
That I
expired. I
that
now
I
recognize
yield.
Mr. Gonzalez for 5 minutes of his.
International students, many of whom had spent years building their futures here, suddenly found their visas revoked. No notice, no due process, just a knock on the door or an email saying their legal status was gone. Imagine being a student halfway through your degree, only to discover overnight that your life has been derailed. No chance to appeal, no explanation, no time to pack up your dreams. That's the chaos these policies unleashed. When pressed directly, do you agree that revoking student visas without notice can cause fear and confusion among international students? Secretary Kristi Noem dodged. She said it wasn't her decision, it belonged to the State Department. But to the students living in fear, that technicality doesn't matter. What matters is that their lives were thrown into turmoil and the department stood by. But visas were just the beginning. Next, Maceiver shifted the spotlight to the workforce keeping America's airports secure. TSA agents, thousands of men and women who screen millions of passengers every single day. Their work is grueling, their hours unforgiving, their responsibility enormous. Yet, their basic right to unionize was stripped away. Maceiver didn't mince words. She asked point blank, "Do you support restoring full collective bargaining rights for TSA employees?" Once again, the answer was a dodge. Noem said TSA doesn't have that ability today, as if rights can be erased with the stroke of a pen and left to rot. To Maceiver, this wasn't just a legal technicality. It was union busting, an attack on workers' dignity. And if the people protecting America's skies can't fight for their own workplace protections, who exactly is benefiting from these policies? And the attacks on TSA didn't stop there. Even as DHS admitted TSA workers are critically important, the reality on the ground tells another story. These workers are some of the lowest paid employees in federal service. They face long shifts, constant pressure, and now no union to shield them. Maceiver asked if they deserve a livable wage. For once, Noem agreed. Yes, TSA workers are critically important. But it was a hollow admission, because words mean nothing when paired with policies that crush morale and strip protections. The deeper issue wasn't just about wages, it was about dignity. Workers who protect the traveling public deserve more than platitudes. They deserve the basic right to bargain collectively, to speak out about unsafe conditions, and to demand fair pay without fear of retaliation. But instead of support, they've been silenced. Maceiver then turned to one of the most disturbing accusations of all: ICE deporting U.S. citizens. Yes, you heard that correctly. Citizens. People with the full rights of Americans, wrongfully detained, threatened with removal, their lives upended by a department that was supposed to protect them. And it's not just isolated mistakes. Families across the country live in constant fear. Fear of harassment, fear of raids, fear of stepping outside. Parents too afraid to take their kids to school. Families too scared to visit a doctor. Communities silenced into submission, not because they broke the law, but because intimidation has become a policy tool. This isn't public safety. This is state-sponsored fear. Piece by piece, Maceiver exposed how these weren't disconnected incidents. Visa cancellations, TSA union busting, wrongful deportations, they all flow from the same source. It's a pattern of cruelty, chaos, and disregard for human dignity. A pattern that undermines America's values while pretending to defend them. And the American people deserve to know. Why? Why would a department meant to protect citizens turn its power inward, punishing the very people it is sworn to serve? Maceiver framed it bluntly. This is not about safety. This is about control. It's not about law. It's about fear. And that's when the confrontation escalated. For minutes on end, Maceiver unleashed a rapid-fire series of yes or no questions. Should TSA workers have better workplace conditions? Yes. Should students have the right to appeal before losing their visas? Dodged. Do visa cancellations cause fear? Dodged. Does stripping union rights hurt morale? Dodged. Every refusal, every deflection only underscored Maceiver's point. DHS is avoiding accountability. If the answers were defensible, why not say them out loud? Instead, the secretary stumbled over technicalities, bureaucratic language, and non-answers. The contrast couldn't be sharper. On one side, a lawmaker demanding clarity. On the other, an agency head ducking and weaving, unable or unwilling to defend the policies in place. But Maceiver's message went beyond the secretary sitting in that chair. This wasn't just a debate about regulations or agency policies. It was a moral indictment of how power is being used. Students trying to build futures ripped from their classrooms. TSA officers working brutal shifts, silenced from speaking out. Families torn apart, communities terrorized. And an entire department accused of abandoning its mission of protection for a mission of intimidation. Maceiver's final words hit hard. If they can deport citizens, cancel student visas with no notice, strip workers of basic rights, who's next? This wasn't just another oversight hearing. It was a warning, a spotlight on a government agency accused of ignoring the Constitution, dismantling protections, and weaponizing fear. The question now isn't whether these policies exist. The record is clear. The question is whether the American people will accept them. Because if a student can lose their visa overnight, if a citizen can be threatened with deportation, if a TSA officer can be silenced, then none of us are truly safe from the unchecked power of government. And that's why this matters. If you believe we deserve better than fear-based governance, don't stay quiet. Like this video to stand up for the rule of law. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the hearings, the takedowns, and the truths that need to be told. Drop a comment below. Do you think DHS has crossed the line from protecting America to punishing its people? Let's hear your voice. Because one thing is certain, we're not backing down. We're just getting started.